knees, but don't get out of the car. There's electricity on the ground, so I don't want you to touch the car and the ground at the same time. But I want you to turn toward me, put your feet on the edge of the car, and then you're going to stand up, put one hand on the door and the other on the car, but don't get out yet. Don't touch the ground. Very calmly, you're going to jump out of the car and bring your feet together and cross your arms. I want you to take a nice deep breath and very calmly the car, but don't touch the car and the ground at the same time. Are you ready? Go ahead and come out of the car. Perfect. Keep your feet nice and together. And I just want you to moonwalk and shuffle your feet and come toward me. Nice and slow, because the energy, there could be electricity in the ground, and we don't want her to lift her feet. We just want her to scoot away, keep coming toward me, keep toward me. Fantastic. Very nice job. Very nicely done. So this is a safe manner that would allow you to escape out of a car if there's a live wire on your car and there's electricity in the ground. We want to focus on safety at all times. So this was PG&E's live wire safety demonstration. We hope you all can take something away from this. And if you have any questions, we would certainly be very happy to answer those for you. And with that, that will conclude our demonstration. And we're going to do this again at 1:15 this afternoon. So thank you very much. And again, if anybody have questions, we'll be out here all day.
All right, thank you very much. That was our live wire demonstration from PG&E. Now, if I can direct your attention back to the main stage. One of the highlights every year for Prep Day is the watching the demonstration for Jaws of Life.
One more time.
Hey, also a reminder, we've got our food trucks that are here. So if you're hungry, it's about that time. We've got our food trucks, Kona Ice, Cowtown Creamery, and Hefty Eros. They're all here on the side. Get yourself something to eat. And get yourself something to drink as well. We want you to stay hydrated. Our friends at Nestle are passing out free water, either still water or sparkling water, and it's cold. I just grabbed one. So it's right here in the Nestle tent. If you want to grab something to drink, we want to make sure you stay hydrated. Coming up very soon, we've got a kids Dance for Your Life Fest competition. So we're going to bring the kids up on stage. We're going to have a dance-off. And Dale, we've got some very impressive life jackets back here to pass out for the winners.
One size fits all. This is a crucial piece of equipment because, as you know, kids don't float. So if you're out on the water, it's not only the law, it's just a good idea to have a life vest.
We'll have any kid that wants to come up for the dance-off come up for that. We've got another round of the cakewalk or the prep walk that we'll be giving away items for that. And then the Jaws of Life coming up here in just a moment. And then learn how to sandbag. We ask you sometimes when there's evacuation and flooding that you need to sandbag. Why is that important, and how do you do it? That's coming up with CCC, the California Department of California.
You know, that's interesting about the sandbagging because.
Yes, California Corrections. Go ahead.
Department of Corrections?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they'll be doing that demonstration at their booth.
But we used to get phone calls during emergencies where we would show people sandbagging, and people would call and say, they're doing it wrong. There is a right way and a wrong way to do it. And you're much more effective and efficient if you're doing it correctly, not just how you fill the bags, but how you lay them down. There is an interesting process to that. You know, and it is good to know because it happens every year.
And it's a message that we need to mention during September, which again is National Preparedness Month, the reason that we're here today. Sacramento Fire Department ready to go with our Jaws of Life demonstration. So we're going to bring up the guinea pig. So there's an unwritten rule among the fire department that if you get on camera, you have to buy ice cream for the rest of your troop. I don't know that we're going to have that rule for you today. That's not happening today. All right.
Okay. My name's Dave Lochner. I'm captain of the Sacramento Fire Department at Truck 6. We have A.O. Birmingham, who drives the truck, and then the two firefighters in the back. We have Firefighter Sinet and Firefighter Donahue, and they're going to be the ones using the cutters and spreaders, also known as Jaws of Life today.
They haven't heard that term before? Cutters and
Spreaders.
Spreaders.
Yes.
Okay.
So once they pull them up, they'll kind of show you. One of them we use to either pinch or spread metal apart, and the other one is actually strictly used for cutting.
All right. Can you tell us about the demonstration that we're going to see? How this might, demonstrate a real-life scenario?
You bet. This car is actually not much that bad, which is good for us. It makes it real easy, and we can get the doors off. So what we're going to show you is all the safety things that need to happen. And safety things not only for the people inside the car, but for us as firefighters, we got to make sure that we're not going to get injured trying to help the person that's inside the car.
How often do you have to use the cutters and the spreaders, the Jaws of Life? Is this something that you use this on almost a weekly, daily basis?
With the way they're building cars now, they're a lot safer.
That's good to know.
It is. It is. But we definitely do go through every month and use them almost.
Yeah.
So if you guys are ready, we can get started.
Let's do it.
Okay. So like I said, the first thing we want to worry about today is safety. So the car stabilization, making sure that the car doesn't move on us. If it's maybe tilted on edge or something, we got to figure out how to stabilize the car. One of the first things we're going to do is pop the tires.
Well, what if it's leaking gas too? Is that something you need to worry about? Is that part of the stabilization process?
Yeah, you bet. When we go to a car accident, an engine will also respond with us. An engine is the one that carries the water for us, so they'll put a hose line on the ground just in case there is gasoline that is going to ignite.
Okay, but you mentioned stabilizing the car. They put some blocks behind the tires. What's the importance of stabilizing the vehicle?
Well, a lot of times, if you crash, your car's still in drive, or it may have gone into neutral, and we don't want this car moving on us. So we get it down onto its rims, and then we use what Firefighter Donahue is holding. We call them step chocks. And what that's going to do is hold the car in place.
Okay, and I noticed he used a device. It's obviously got a spike on it. Boom, it just popped the tires instantly. And, steel belted tires, not easy to do, but that thing just did it like that, instant hold.
That's one of our forcible entry tools for getting into houses or commercial buildings, but it doubles as a tire popper.
Okay, so there's chocks or blocks behind the tires, something under the car as well. And because you're not sure how the car may move as you're using the Jaws of Life.
That's correct. So now that we got the car stabilized and we feel that we're safe to start taking care of the person inside of the car, the first thing we're going to do just for our safety on this demonstration is we're going to take the hood off of the car. And the reason we're taking the hood off the car is because we noticed the battery's still connected. Most likely the battery's dead because it's a junk car, but we can't take that chance. And with the battery being active, it gives the airbags that haven't deployed in there still a chance of popping off. So we want to disconnect that battery.
And you talk about, well, we're just going to take the hood off the car. Every car is different. You probably have to know a little about some of the different cars and vehicles and structurally what's under that hood. I mean, some, maybe Jeeps or whatever, may have roll bars. I mean, others may present some unique challenges to taking off the hood.
Yeah, definitely. No car's the same. We have new electric cars, which pose a huge challenge to us because we don't see them, and they're fairly new on the market. They've been around about 10 years, but honestly, we don't get that many accidents with electric cars, so those batteries pose a big threat to us. So we do practice this a lot at junkyards. They're nice enough to allow us to cut on cars, so we get a feel for how cars are laid out and how to take them apart like we are right now.
Well, what's the reason for starting with the hood if there's a person in the car and you've probably stabilized them, hopefully medically at the moment, but they're still in there? I would think you would start trying to get them out first, but you're starting with the hood. Is there a reason for that?
We're only starting with the hood for the demonstration.
Oh,
normally
okay.
We would be going to the doors and working on getting the person out, but this is more, we're just doing it for our safety reasons, and we want to show you guys how we can get a hood off pretty quick. But normally what would happen is we each have a role. So my role as a captain is I'm the safety. I stand back and I see what's going on. I see the big picture, because when you're working with these tools, you're focused on your tool and what that tool's doing and how it's affecting the car. So the two guys, no, not much. So what they just did is there's two hinges on each hood. And all they did was they pinched it a little bit to get a access space, and then they just cut the hinges.
So we have a wonderful commute driving up Highway 50 every day to get to Cal OES. And this past week, one of our coworkers came in and said there was a pretty bad accident right in front of him. What do we as citizens need to know if we come across something like this? If you guys either are there or aren't there, what do we need to know?
So the biggest thing we ask is that if you see a car accident, obviously call 911 and get things started. But one of the hardest things we do is once the car accident has been reported, the traffic starts bottlenecking, which slows us down on getting there. And we have something called the golden hour. If we don't get a person out in the golden hour, their chances of survival drop excessively. And so we want to get there and start working on this car as quick as possible. So move over to the right, and I know it's hard to do, but try not to be a looky-loo.
So you definitely feel like you are, well, seconds mean the difference perhaps between life and death, and that the clock is ticking in, and you really feel it is a race against time to get that person out of the car and use the jaws of life as quickly as possible on the car.
Yeah, definitely. So now we got the hood off, we got the battery disconnected, so basically for this demonstration we're feeling pretty safe right now. We still have to watch out for the airbags because even with the battery disconnected, those airbags can discharge. So what we're going to do now, just to show you guys the difference in windows, if you don't know, we're going to show you how we break windows and how different windows break in different ways. We do this because in order to get access to the car, or to the person inside the car, a lot of times we can't get in through the door, so we have to get access to them. So we'll break a window where we can send a firefighter in.
Whoa!
We can send a firefighter in and cover that person with one of these tarps that you see on the ground. Usually we don't use it to put our equipment on, we use it to cover patients and protect them from glass or metal that might be flying.
But one direct hit took out, I thought, okay, it's going to make a big crack, and then you'd smash, smash, smash to get the whole window out. It was just one swing, and the whole window was gone.
Yeah, that's correct. The windows on the side on the driver's and the passenger doors, they're just quick glass like you'd have in your house. They just shatter. Now, we'll show you the front. Totally different window. It's a laminated window that will not shatter like that. I know the movies all show them shattering and all, but you'll see when we break it, we have to actually chop through it and cut it because there's a piece of material in between the two layers of glass that actually holds the glass together and sticks the glass to that material so it won't go flying on you.
You talk about getting junk cars to practice on. How often do you and your guys practice this scenario?
We got a lot of different exercise we need to practice. So cutting on cars, we probably do every 3 months.
I know this is a very simple question to ask. I know the answer is so key. When you roll up onto an accident like this and you see someone who is wearing a seatbelt as opposed to who is not wearing a seatbelt, can you talk about the difference?
Yeah, you bet. I know you guys hear it, and especially for you kids, seatbelts save lives every day. The worst accidents we go on are the ones where people aren't wearing seatbelts, and even though that front window may be laminated, people can fly right through that thing. Or you'd be even surprised when a car rolls over. You go out the sunroof, you go out the side windows. Without a seatbelt on, your odds of survival are way down.
I think that's one of those things that most people really just don't maybe appreciate the physics as well as you do, who have seen so many of these, of what happens in a rollover or a front-end collision, how easily without a seatbelt that you can be ejected from that vehicle.
Yeah, it's definitely an easy thing to do, and we see it too often, where just a seatbelt would have saved somebody's life. So now that it looks like we got all the windows taken, except for this, hang on. Window? You want to take this window? So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how we pop a door off. And I know it sounds like it's an easy thing to do by popping a door off, but depending on how the accident happened and how crumpled the car is, some doors are really difficult to pop off. This one will be really easy because there's no damage to that side. So what they did is they went at the fender well and they created a pressure point right there. They squeezed down on that, which caused a crease in the door. And that allows us to get our way to pop these things open because the car's on the up by the wheel, it's held on by a hinge. And on the back, your lock locks around something called a nadir pin, which holds that I mean, it is a solid pin that it takes a little bit of work for our cutters to cut through. So that's why we're going at the hinge first to make a pry point on that nadir pin.
And all of these cutters operate off a relatively small generator. I guess, is that an air compressor that's doing that? What are you generating to power the jaw?
And all these jaws, basically
over the years, I remember we're a maybe even more.
These have gotten smaller, so we can get one coming more managed away.
Bits of wearing seat belts and what that means for you guys when you roll up on a scene. I want to touch on another very important subject as well, but alcohol-related accidents, what you guys see, and just the safety message that we all need to keep in mind.
Well, alcohol in cars don't mix. With this day and age, with Uber and Lyft, all those options out there, it just doesn't make sense that we still see the high rate of accidents caused by drunk drivers out there. And that's where a lot of the damage we've had in the last couple of years, wrong way drivers from alcohol, being caused by alcohol. As you can see, they're getting the door off now. There's a lot of cables out there that they got to cut through, and now they're going to bend it open and go to the nadir pin.
So we do have a great group of people here watching this live, but I also want to give a shout out. We've got a lot of people watching us live on Facebook right now. You see the cameras moving around. We're broadcasting live on our Callaway S Facebook page. So for those of you who are watching us live on Facebook, I want to let you know that we are in Old Sacramento, kind of the north end of Old Sacramento. This is our 13th annual Day of Preparedness. Great vendors down here today, great demonstrations as you were watching, and you are welcome to come down and join us. We'll be here until 2 o'clock. It is completely free, a great family fun event. Live face painting, live demonstrations. We've still got the river demonstration coming up. So for those of you watching us on Facebook, come down and join us in Old Sacramento until 2 o'clock. I'll let you get back to describing now what's happening.
Okay, so as you can see, getting a door off isn't easy, even with it not being crumpled up. It takes a little bit of work, precision. Those tools are big, and we're trying to create space to get to what we need to get to. Without being able to see what they're doing over there, it's kind of hard, I'm guessing, but. Okay, so they're creating they're spreading the space to the nadir pin, which I was telling you guys about. They weren't able to get it by prying the door open from the other side. They didn't have the access, and that's something we run into once in a while. So we can't, when we show up, my job is to set a game plan, and I get these guys going on the first game plan. But then my job is to start looking at the next couple plans and next couple moves if the first one doesn't work.
While we have a brief moment, let me remind you what's coming up next. At noon, right here on the main stage, we're going to have a kids dance for your life vest. So we're going to have kids come up on stage. Listen, you don't need to be a talented dancer. Trust me when I say that. You don't need to have any kind of talent. Just come up here and have some fun for a few minutes, and we'll be passing out life vests. The dart demonstration on the river will be happening at 12:30, so we'll ask you to go down to the river for that. That'll be immediately followed by the Metro helicopter fire demo over the river. There will be sucking up water from the river and dropping that down, and then learn how to sandbag with the California Conservation Corps coming up at 12:15. All of that is coming up in the next few minutes.
All right, so we're going to take this door off so people on this guy's side can see what we're doing. We're doing it a different way. That one we attacked from the hinge side. This one we're attacking from the nadir pin side. So all they did is they pinched the door in the middle, which creates a little gap. And then we take the spreaders, the jaws of life, and we just keep working them in to eventually pop the door right off that nadir pin, which might be a little quicker.
I was wondering why the pinch on the door, but you said that was to create a gap so they can get the spreader in there to pop that door open.
Exactly. And so what you can see what started happening, they're going at it now with the cutters to cut that nadir pin. He was starting to spread it, but the way a car's put together, they have sheet metal over solid steel pieces that go through to save people upon impact. So what happened was the outside sheet of metal started peeling off, and he saw that quick enough that he backed off and allowed the cutters to get in there, and now they got that door open. They'll cut the hinge off and take that door off, and then we'll move on to our next thing.
You really do have to appreciate the power of those. You said, well, we'll just cut the hinge off, but if you've seen the hinge on the door, I mean, that's a big piece of metal, and there's a couple of them at least.
Yeah, that hinge is a solid piece of steel, and these cutters just have an enormous amount of power.
And the cutter And the spreader, that's all in one device. You can switch between cutting and spreading?
No, so if you look on the blue hose, which firefighter Donahue's holding with the tip in the ground, that's our spreaders. The cutters are just a large pair of shears.
Very, very powerful.
Very powerful shears.
Pair of shears.
So as we're working in here, one of the things these guys are always conscious of and always watching is if we cut in the wrong spot, there's a chance that we could set off that airbag, which is right in the upper left part of that door, right above firefighter Sinette's shoulder. So we just are always conscious of that.
And so a lot of times anymore, there's more than one.
Go ahead.
More than one airbag. It's not just coming out of the out of the glove box area or the steering wheel, but they can be on the sides. I mean, some cars have multiple that you would probably need to watch out for.
Yeah, there's airbags everywhere now in these cars, which is a great thing for safety because it's really keeping the injuries to a minimum, but it's also a danger to us.
Well, it's an explosive force, right? It's not just a quick gust of air that inflates it. It's a boom. I mean, it's essentially an explosion.
Exactly. So now they've gotten the doors off. The next thing we're going to do is sometimes the car's crumpled. We have a hard time getting to the patient. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the roof. We're just going to take it completely off. So they're going to work on what we call that front post they're cutting now is called the A post. The next post back is the B and then the C. So they're just going to work on it. We can cut them with the cutters right there. We can use a Sawzall. So A.O. Birmingham's using a Sawzall, just a standard one like you have at home, with a metal blade on it, and it'll cut right through that A post really fast.
There are times when you have to go through this process to get the person out of the car. So in other words, there would still be a person in the car during this point of the process?
Yeah, we wouldn't be doing this unless there was still a person in the car because we go for the quickest way to get them out. So what we're doing is we're simulating that there was a front-end accident which caused the whole dashboard to crush down on the person's legs and pinch them in there so we can't get them out. So what we do first is we have to take the roof off. And what our next step after we get this roof off is we're going to go ahead and roll the dash with one of our rams, which you can see on there. And all a ram is just a hydraulic bar that pushes it out and lifts the dash right off of wherever it's crumpled down on. So, but the first step is we got to take the roof off so that it doesn't hold the dash when we want to lift it.
We've talked about two very important issues. Number one, wearing seatbelts. Number two, avoiding alcohol when you're driving. I'll let you discuss one other item that we see every day, and that's just speed and dangerous lane changes.
Yeah, shoot, not just speed and dangerous lane changes, but distracted driving. I mean, people on their cell phones, it's dangerous out there. And I know we all have the urge to look at that text or make that phone call, but with what we see on a daily basis with the accidents, I want to say a majority of those accidents are distracted drivers.
What's the device now then that they're using on what's really a structural support between the front door and the rear door, maybe even like an interior, almost like a roll bar in there, but it's got to be a sturdy piece of metal, and it just crunched it. It looked like just cut right through it, what they're working on right now.
Yes. So what he's doing is he's using cutters, and he's cutting through the plastic, through the seatbelt, and through the main, what we call the B post, and it does away with it like it's, butter. And as you can see, we're having a little problem with our Sawzall, but that's everyday life. But we have backups to that. So if we were having this issue on an accident where we broke a blade or we had a malfunction, we have backups. So we have battery-powered ones. We have electric ones. And all we do instead of messing with it is we'd run right out to the truck, which is normally right up next to us, and we'd grab the different Sawzall, which runs off a battery, and we'd be done with this in no time flat.
This might even be a case where, because it was just some front-end damage of this car, taking the doors off might actually be easier in a case like this than what you see when a car is more heavily damaged, that the supports and things are crunched, and it may be more difficult to get a proper angle on something in order to actually, cut it and take it off.
Yeah, so it's just hard to say. Sometimes when you get in an accident, your door's almost popped open. So it's really easy. All we do is put the spreaders in and it pops right up. Other times, it damages so bad that it's hard for us. We can't even get through a door in a speedy manner. So we may have to go to the door on the opposite side of where our patient is.
And then at the same time, you're having to keep in mind the people who are on site, and sometimes that might be 4 or 5 people in a car like this.
Who's this guy right here? We got to get him back in phase. There we go. She's on it.
I think we're going to see him crunch a serious piece of metal here. Wow.
Yeah, so he's going to smash that so that we can flip the car back over. Or I'm sorry, we can flip the hood back over on itself.
You're going to basically just take it, roll it back over on itself and expose them.
Yeah, so we've got the A post, the B post, and then that little piece in between the 2 windows in the back cut completely off. So once they pinch and finish the cuts on the other side, all they're going to do is the 3 of them or 2 of them will just flip that thing over and it'll still be attached, but it relieves the front dash so we can roll that dash right off of the person's legs.
Now, would you be administering either some kind of medicine treatment while the person's still in the car at this point, or is the goal to get them out before you even begin that?
So like I said, when we respond to these, we respond with an engine also, who comes with 4 people from the city of Sacramento also. What we do is as soon as we can, we send one of our firefighters from the engine inside the car, and their job is to maintain safety on that person, watch what's going on with what we're doing outside to make sure it's not ill affecting the person inside. And in the meantime, they can also start administering whatever treatment's necessary, whether it's just holding the neck stable and the back stable, or whether it's something more serious where you have to start an IV and start giving fluids and medicines.
So if people are responsive inside, maybe in some cases someone is talking to them, maybe explaining even a little bit what's going to happen, just trying to reassure them and calm them a little bit and let them know that this is a process, you're going to be okay, we're working on it, we're going to, and maybe even in some cases tell them what you're about to do.
Exactly. That's important to do. That's what we have to do. It's just compassion for the person. We got to put ourselves in their situation, and they're scared. They've got all these big tools that some of them have never seen before. It's a lot of noise, and they are...
Well, here it comes, just like you said.
Yeah.
And roll it back.
It's coming right up. It'll take a few of them.
So they can put some of their own muscle into that too, as well.
Can.
It's not just grab that thing and bend it back over.
Yeah, and sometimes it flips over real easy, sometimes it doesn't. So we just have to make a quick cut on this thing and it'll potentially flip over. Or we just remove it completely.
Hey, again, while we're watching, again, a reminder, coming up at noon, we're going to have the kids Dance for Your Life jacket competition. That'll be here on the main stage. So as soon as this Jaws of Life demonstration is over, we'll move straight into the kids Dance for Your Life jacket. Also, again, a reminder for any of the kids out there, free face painting. It is just toward the river stage. We've got free face painting going on until 2. We've got photos from this event that'll be on our Cal OES Flickr page, free for download. And then again, a reminder, the dart display and boat is behind the main stage. Great giveaways there as well. And if you want to kind of see how Dart does all of their water rescues, they've got some great demonstrations there as well.
So is this really getting close to the end game? What you're trying to do here is to get that roof pulled back, and now you've got greater exposure to extract the people inside the vehicle?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, when we take a roof off, there's a reason behind it. So we've got to get, number 1, in and get better access to the person. But number 2, that dash may be crushed down on the person's legs, which prevents us from removing the person from the car. So at this point now, we have a good access to the car. We can decide our next step, whether it's using the ram, which they're going to grab right now, rolling the dash up off the person's legs, or we can maybe cut the seat out, which allows us to pull it back, which will give us access. But getting to the base of a seat is a difficult thing. So a lot of times we'll just we'll spread the dash and roll it right up off of the person's legs. So what he's doing now is he's cutting a relief cut. Because what we're going to do is push that dash, which has a lot of structural members in it, and we're going to push it up, straight up off the person's legs. So they have to cut that relief cut so it'll go up a little bit easier.
So for the kids Dance for Your Life jacket competition, the winners will get life jackets. The Runner-up gets a new convertible, slightly damaged. I'll just kind of...
Some of you may be wondering why we're in all our firefighter gear when we're doing this. And the reason being is safety. We wear glasses because pieces of plastic, pieces of metal go flying off. We've done a demonstration where we cut a seat and it sent a piece of metal flying probably 100 feet away. So we wear this to protect ourselves. There's shocks in this thing that could shoot off and hit us. So it's all just about safety for us.
Well, and I guess we need to keep in mind, too, that this is a very controlled demonstration, but a lot of times when you're doing this, it's probably just chaotic. I mean, maybe an accident that has just happened involving more than one vehicle, and there's other traffic flying by, and you're operating in that golden hour where you're trying to extract the victims as quickly as possible. There's a lot of chaos and even in some cases maybe a lot of danger for the people out there on the scene that are doing this work.
Yeah, so there is a lot of danger out there, not just with the car, but with other cars out on the freeway or out on the city streets. So what we use is we use our engines and our trucks to block traffic. So we may be only reacting to an accident in one lane, but we may take 3 lanes of traffic, and that's why we do it. It's just to keep us safe and to keep that, like we said earlier, drunk driver who may be following and they get attracted to lights and keep them from coming into us.
You know, and I guess that's just good information for us to know, and just use greater patience on the road when you come up on a scene like this and 4 lanes are suddenly down to 1 or maybe just blocked, because when you're out there, I mean, just watching these firefighters, they have to be so focused on what they're doing. It's like you can't be glancing over your shoulder. Oh, is there more traffic coming? Is there a big truck coming? Is somebody maybe not paying attention? I mean, you just have to keep that flow of traffic away from them because they're so focused on what they're doing here and the people inside the vehicle that they can't be looking out for other dangers that might be coming down the road or happening behind their back.
Yeah. It's definitely something that we need to be careful of because we are focused. We want to make sure we give all our attention to that patient. And we're not taking lanes just to, cause more traffic. We're doing it for a reason to keep ourselves safe. So as you can see, they're rolling that dash and they're getting a ton of lift off of it right now, just on that one side. Now, there's times where the accident is so bad that the car is so bad that a lot of times we'll call a second truck out. And the truck, the one with the big ladders on it, they carry all these extrication tools. So we'll call them out, and maybe they'll be working on one side and we'll be working on the other. And we can roll this whole dash over on top of itself if we did a cut on this side and had a second set of tools working on this side.
And again, the importance of rolling back the dash is just how a lot of these accidents happen. Somebody is, maybe can't get out because it's been crunched and there's just not room to extract them, or maybe their feet are somehow trapped inside. So this is something that you need to do quite often on it, is just roll that dash back and create a little, the ability to extract them from the vehicle.
Yeah, rolling the dash is something that is very common in accidents with us. Obviously, the most common is popping a door off to help somebody get out. But usually, if they can't get out themselves, there's a reason. That's because they've got themselves trapped by getting the dash pushed down onto them. So what they're going to do, they got that other side propped up, and what they're going to do now is basically do another relief cut on this side and switch tools out and then roll this side up too, and we'll show you how far up we can lift this dash if we had to.
Again, while we're watching, the kids dance for your life jacket competition is going to happen right after this is over. So kids, if you want to get involved in that, just be ready to come up on the stage as soon as this is over with. You don't really have to have any talent or dancing skills. I can testify to that firsthand. You just want to come up and have a great time, and we'll be giving away some life jackets as prizes.
So what they did is they disconnected our hydraulic hose because that ram is already extended to its max thing, and by disconnecting it, it still holds that hydraulic fluid in there and allows it to hold it in position. And now we can use both hoses again and all the tools except for that ram. And we carry 3 different size rams depending on what space we have to get into.
I understand we have some great comments for those who are watching our live feed on our Facebook channel right now, OES on Facebook, Cal OES on our Facebook page. So for those of you who are watching on Facebook, thank you. And again, a reminder, we'll be down here in Old Sacramento until 2 o'clock today. Completely free family fun event. Come on down and join us until 2 o'clock for our 13th annual California Day of Preparedness. We always kind of assume that there's a great sense of urgency when these happens, and I know that there is, but you've touched on this over and over again. Really, for you guys, the overriding factor is safety.
Yeah, definitely. It's in there, getting the person out of the vehicle as quickly and safely as possible so that we can get them treated and get them to the hospital. But we also have to put our safety, because if we get hurt, we're not going to be there to help you guys. And it takes one of us out of the game. And as you can see, it takes all of us to get a job like this done. And that's why we run with 4 people on the truck.
Do you rotate? You talk about every guy has their own task and their own mission. Do you rotate those around, or do you always do the same? The guys always do the same things every time you do this?
We're all cross-trained, so if I needed to, I could go do one of the firefighters' jobs, or if A.O. Birmingham could do one of their jobs, and they could do mine. But we stick to our role that we're assigned. So I'm always the safety, I'm always the overhead, and then he's always the stabilization guy, and the other guys hold their positions. And that just allows for us all to know what each of us are doing and what we specialize in. So what they're doing now is they're going to lift this side of the dash with just a different method. We have other rams, but they're smaller. We used our biggest one on that side, so what we can do is we can stick our spreaders in and actually use it just like the rams used. We just have to create a purchase point and get it in solid and then start lifting. And there it goes. And the one big thing that all of us have to be aware of is as we make one side of the car move or make a change in one side of the car, we got to always watch, see how it's going to affect the other side of the car, because that brace over there is holding up that side, but as this side lifts, it's going to change the positioning. So we just position people on both sides and see how it's going to go.
And this car is nice and level, but in accidents, I mean, a lot of times vehicles end up upside down on their sides in ditches. I mean, sometimes do you have to approach a scene where you're not going to be able to stabilize a car just level like this, and you have to approach it just because the clock is ticking and that golden hour is counting down, and sometimes you have to try to extract people and open the doors and do things when the car is not in such a favorable position as this.
Yeah, no accident's the same. There's ones that are easier than others, but we have tools made for if a car is down an embankment, maybe on its side. We have big stabilization bars that we didn't pull out for this demonstration because it was such a stable car in the first place. But we have tools that'll stabilize a car on its side, stabilize a car on its roof, and it may not look like A.O. Birmingham had a lot of work to do to stabilize it, but there are accidents where we definitely have a lot more work than others.
So as you say, everyone is different. So I guess there has to, in a way, be an immediate strategy when you come upon a scene of how you're going to, your plan of attack for using the jaws of life and extracting the victims.
Yeah, we definitely all have a game plan, but every accident's different. And a lot of times, like I said, plan A doesn't always work, so we have to move on to plan B and C, and eventually we will get the person out.
So at this point, have you pretty much done everything that you would need to do in an accident to extract all of the victims who might be in that vehicle?
I sure hope so, because if we haven't done enough now, I don't know what else we can do.
Hey, folks, how about a big round of applause for Sacramento Fire Department and our Jaws of Life demonstration? Thank you guys very, very much.